Yes, hello everyone, welcome along to the latest instalment of the Turfcast podcast pre-game show with me, Joe Redmond, head of another absolutely massive game for Burnley, this time down in South Wales as the Clarets travel to Swansea to take on Swansea City. And I know I say this every week now, and I've already said it, but I'm going to carry on saying it every single week. It's a massive game. Every single game between now and the end of the season is absolutely huge. We need to make sure we keep it in our own hands, because at the minute it's in our own hands. If we win every single game between now and the end of the season, no matter what Leeds or Sheffield United do, they're the important one here, Sheffield United, we will be promoted, even though we're 2 points behind them, because of course we play Sheffield United. I still think we can do it, but I was kind of hoping we would be above Sheffield United by now, and unfortunately we're not yet. I was hoping they'd drop points away at QPR. Obviously they went on to win that match, and then I was hoping we'd beat West Brom, and then obviously if we did beat West Brom, then with Bristol City's late goal we would have gone above them, and then they're playing this weekend. This weekend is massive. Nothing less than 3 points is acceptable for Burnley Football Club. We have to win this match if we have any aspirations of getting promoted. Obviously if we lose and Sheffield United lose, we'll still be within with a shout. I'm not saying if we don't lose this, we're definitely not going up. That's not what I'm saying. But these are the type of games where you need to properly put a marker down. And as far as I'm aware, I'll quickly double check on my phone now as I'm talking, but Sheffield United obviously play Sheffield Wednesday this weekend, and as far as I'm aware, that is on Sunday. So if it is Sunday the 16th of March at 12:30. Burnley go to Swansea on Saturday. We beat them, fingers crossed. We go above Sheffield United ahead of a massive game for them at Hillsborough. This weekend is massive. I want to end this weekend above Sheffield United, and if we're not, maybe my confidence of us finishing second will start fading slightly. Now, you may notice that there is no Swansea City fan here if you're watching on YouTube, but don't worry. I have got a Swansea City fan. We've had to do it a little bit different this week due to my work commitments and our guests' work commitments. I'm working in the evening, whereas he has a normal job, like I'm sure a lot of you do. So he works in the day. So we just couldn't get a moment together where we could have a conversation. So what I have done, I have sent my questions to Luke from Swanscast. He was on the channel earlier in the season, if I remember rightly, or maybe a couple of seasons ago. He's definitely been on Turfcast before, and he's a good lad. And I've sent him the questions, and he's just sent me a video answering the questions. So yeah, let's introduce Luke. He is the most Welsh-sounding man you will ever hear, but here is our Swansea fan for this week, or should I say our opposition guest for this week, and that is Luke from Swanscast.
Hello everyone, it's Luke from Swanscast here. Thanks for having me back on the podcast. Just got a few questions Joe's asked me to answer about Swansea's season so far, so I'll get stuck into those. Thoughts on the season so far then? It's been a bit of a turbulent year for Swansea. We obviously started the season with Luke Williams, and it did start off all right, actually. We were, sort of top half quite comfortably for most of the first half of the season. We were doing quite well for ourselves. The way we were playing, he was developing, he was building a momentum up with the new style of play he was trying to implement since getting the job a year ago in January, but having his first summer window and trying to rebuild his squad with the players he wants and all that sort of thing. They were gelling in quite well, a couple of good signings in the summer, and things looked like they were on the up, like we were having a bit of momentum being built, and the club actually had a buyout, if you like. The chairman who was in place bought out the owners, if you like, so he's brought his own team in of other people who invested as well. So there's a lot of buzz if you go back to November, and there was outside talk of us being potential playoff candidates. I think if you go into Christmas, we were maybe like 4 points away at one point, and maybe less, 3. Looking like we could, if we had a good second half of the season and some good January business, maybe challenge that top 6. And then all of a sudden, Luke Williams got linked to another job, the West Brom job, and the season just fell apart. It literally just fell apart. So I said the first half of the season was quite decent for us. We only lost at most any game through the first half of the season by 1 goal, playing every team once. We hadn't lost by more than a 1 goal margin. So, we were doing enough to be competitive in every single game all season. We weren't quite getting over the line enough, and that's why we found ourselves mid to upper table. But that was fine. That's kind of where we expected to be. This speculation came in, and the game after that speculation, we go away to Portsmouth and lost 4-0. We went on a run of matches where we won. I think it was one game in 9, one draw within that as well. Every other game was a defeat. That lasted through the entire January and into February until he got sacked. And ultimately, he probably had a bit longer than he should have had. I think after the way he dealt with the speculation around going to West Brom, he clearly wanted to go. And something after that really wasn't right within the club. And maybe the players were not playing for him. Maybe there was respect lost. He really wanted to go. I'm not sure the ins and outs of what happened there, but something changed. The performances changed. The results changed. And it fell apart. So I guess, yeah, our season is kind of looks like maybe recovered a little bit since, which I'll go into probably a little bit in questions later on. But it's a season of perhaps what could have been. We could have perhaps, I don't think we necessarily would have got playoffs, but even if we were knocking on the door and finished just outside or comfortably in the top half, that would have been progress for us going into next year. And that was the goal, was to continue to develop and have another season of bringing players in to play the style of football and try and shift the momentum, which in recent years has been perhaps trending down the table, to going back up the table. But yeah, unfortunately, things didn't quite go that way when we get to the middle of the year. Second question then, looking at the league table, probably okay, but some unexpected results from the bottom and a defeat against Watford last night, though I've just watched it now, recording this just after the game. Not ideal. Are we looking over our shoulder a little bit? I do think we always got to be a little bit cautious of what could happen if we go into another bad run that we did have in January. Like I said, 1 win in 9. If we go on another run like that, that really puts us back into that sort of relegation battle. We thought we were entering into it until Luke Williams got sacked. Since he's got sacked and Alan Sheehan has come in, he's won 2 and drawn 1 before the Watford game, which is his first defeat. Only a 1-0 defeat, mind, and by all accounts, you could argue with a better team. We put in a really good performance. We just couldn't get a goal. We couldn't, get that end product. And the goal that they scored, it was a little bit of an error from us as well. So as much as you never want to see a team making errors, I guess, in a way, you could argue that defensively it wasn't necessarily us being poor in that regard, but just making an individual error, which perhaps you can fix a bit easier. So yeah, we're on 44 points at the moment, and we are 9 points clear of Derby in 22nd. That's 3 wins. I think that's a lot for the teams down there to get. Like, there's 3 in the relegation zone, of course, but 5 other teams in our way. I'm not complacent enough to say we're completely out of it. We're on 44 points. I said after Luke Williams got sacked, we needed 3 wins. We've had 2 of those already and a draw. So if we get one more and go to 47, I think that probably would be enough. But I think for us, obviously, you want to aim for more. And I think with the amount of games that are left, asking for another 2 wins this season shouldn't be too much of a stretch to try and get out of the squad, which takes us to 50. And I think that should be okay, really. But yeah, I don't want to really get complacent. I wouldn't like the squad to get complacent because things can change quickly in the Championship. All those teams down the bottom seem to have good results this weekend. And it's this time of the season where the teams that are really in trouble do start to pick up performances and results and sort of bring themselves back into contention of maybe staying up. And I think it'll be an interesting end of the season for a lot of the teams involved. I just hope that we can climb out of that a bit sooner than some of the others, I think, in a safe way where we can really be reassured and say, no, we've stayed in the league anyway. What's currently happening with your manager search? Last I saw Alan Sheehan, who is currently in the caretaker seat, looks set to have talks about becoming a permanent boss. It does look like he's going to get the job, but I think potentially he will be given the job until the summer, and then they'll review the situation. That's not to say he won't continue thereafter. I just think it's sensible to sort of reevaluate the situation in the summer. We're in a stage of the season where it's probably not a good time to bring in a new manager. We're not, as I just discussed, in the doldrums of being really deep in that relegation battle where you want someone to come in and save the day, and we're not really looking at playoffs. We're kind of in a bit of no man's land now in the table, thanks to Alan Sheehan and the job that he's done since he's come in. but making the decision on the future and the next project, I guess, right now is probably a bit tough. The availability of other managers might not be great. You're probably paying a decent amount to get someone out of a job that might be either less or more available in the summer. So it just makes sense to kind of wait. And because Alan Sheehan's done such a good job since he's come in, there's not really any rush. I think, if anything, when he does get this to the end of the season, it's advantage for him as well, because he kind of gets to audition over a longer term, because he is untested at that level and as a manager. So it would be a risk to just give it to him, but he's got enough time now to show that that risk is less than perhaps what you'd think without seeing an example of what he can do. I don't know if he is the right man to go forward with long term, but I also don't want to discredit the job that he's done twice, because he also did a good job as caretaker last time we sacked our last manager, Michael Duff, and he overtook the Swans for just over a month before Luke Williams came in last season over the Christmas period, where he averaged 1.5 points per game over, I think it was a 9-game spell he had that time. So he's done it twice now, where he's steadied the ship and picked up important results to kind of not save us, but really help the situation that we found ourselves in both times now. So he does deserve the respect, and I think he does deserve a chance in a way, but it's a question I can't answer properly until the summer. I think that the decision will be he'll get it until the summer and then he'll reevaluate. So I can't really answer whether I want him or not until we see how the rest of the season pans out, because you see it all too often where the caretaker manager does good, get the permanent contract, and then all of a sudden the results stop, and it happens quite a lot. And that's something I'm a bit cautious of us getting trapped into. Like, if he's the right man, fair enough, but I also don't want it to just be a case of, oh, well, he's done a good job, let's just give it to him. Like, it needs to be the right man. So if he's not the right man, thank you for doing a good job, but we need to look at the future properly, rather than something that could end up being potentially another short-term solution. Our fans behind the appointment, if it happens. From the outside, it looks like a cheap option. I guess I kind of alluded to some of this already. Before he came in, the fans were really quite against the idea of him having it for various reasons I haven't got enough time to go into. There was a bit of speculation that he was part of the disharmony that disrupted the last couple of months under Luke Williams. A lot of the people who wanted Luke Williams to succeed, even though they couldn't keep backing him by the end, I think believed, and I'm not saying they're wrong, it could be correct, it's all hearsay and speculation, that he was instrumental in stirring the pot behind the scenes, I guess. Don't know how true it is, but also the results speak for themselves. So even if that was true, at the end of the day, they're getting points now where they weren't before. So what side of the coin do you want to be on in that sort of debate? Depends what you really think about, what you want the club doing going forward, I guess. But like I said, I haven't got enough time to go into all of that. But ultimately, he wasn't the most popular choice, really, because of those reasons. However, picking up the results he has since he's come in, I do think he's silenced a lot of that talk, silenced a lot of the unease that he was getting the job after people thought he might have been part of the reason for the slump. Because I guess if the players have instantly responded, it just makes you think how true that is, or was he not the problem and actually just highlighting what a problem was? Like, it's a weird one to talk about, because like I said, it's all hearsay. But I do think that skepticism has quietened down. You see a lot more people who seem to be happy or want him to get the job permanently than not. But you do also have people who kind of share the opinion I've already just discussed, where quite happy for him to have it to the end of the season, but let's see what happens then. But also perhaps want to see the club show a little bit more ambition when it comes to bringing in the next manager, maybe. Not to say Alan Sheehan wouldn't do a great job, but I think because it's his first managerial job, it's hard to say that signals ambition. I guess it's probably a fair comment. Do you think it was the right decision to sack Luke Williams? I might have already answered this as well, but yeah, absolutely. I think, again, without going into the detail of what happened around that West Brom speculation, he essentially made it very clear in the press that he was interested in the job, that he wanted to go. Now, I don't ever begrudge someone moving on in their career upwards. You expect that. I think you've got to be realistic and say most people involved in football will do that. It's just how you go about doing it. Sometimes you don't need to shout it out loud. You could have just brushed the question off, not answered it, played it down, and then gone, and it would have made no difference. if he had done that to how we feel about it. Because when he's moved on, he's moved on. He's not going to care anymore, is he? So at least respect the club at the time you're answering those questions. And he just did not do that. If anything, he was shouting out to come and get me. It didn't happen. He was left with egg on his face, had to come out and apologise for his comments, tried making out like it was a joke that went wrong. And ever since that happened, we just fell off a cliff form-wise. So, we went from losing games when we lost by 1 goal margin and having quite a good defence, not really conceding more than 1 or 2 in a game, or at least very rarely if we ever had, even before that point in the season. I don't actually know if we had. Maybe once against twice Leeds and Sunderland might have been the only two. To get in, conceding goals left, right, centre, really. And, losing to our rivals Cardiff 3-0 in a bit of a drubbing up there, which was quite a bad day at the office, if you like. But that was directly after this as well. One of the first games in that poor run. I just think at that time, I said before the Cardiff game, if he's going to say sorry for these comments, then show you've still got the dressing room in a good performance against Cardiff. And ultimately, for me, I saw that he definitely didn't have the dressing room, because I didn't necessarily need him to win the game, but losing 3-0 without laying a glove on him, you just knew that it was over at that point. So waiting another 6-7 games, whatever it was after that, to sort of just make that decision and pull the trigger. Easy to say in hindsight, but I think it was a bit of wasted time. And he wasted all of January window where we didn't really sign anyone or enough. Only 2 loan players came in. We lost Matt Grimes. It just makes you wonder how much this situation and whatever relationship he now had at the club, because they clearly knew he didn't want to be there. The players would have known he wasn't going to be there long term. He's tried going already. So, how long is he going to be around for? So that the players stopped playing. Did that have an impact on any potential signings? Did it have an impact on potential contract renewals? Harry Darling, for example, by all accounts, didn't sign after that speculation. He's out of contract in the summer. So I think it's done a bit of damage to the club, and the disrespect of the way he handled it for me was always tough to get over. And I said when it happened, I just think the club are going to want to hold out because it's cheaper. They don't want to pay him off. And I understand that. But ultimately, I think the damage was done, and it's only a matter of time until it's just not sustainable anymore. And that's what happened a month later. So, yeah, it was definitely the right decision. And the immediate bounce that we've had in form since, even if it doesn't continue to the end of the season, that those 3 games might prove to have been enough to take us away from a potential relegation battle. And that's just so important for the season now, and just shows how much of an impact the negative situation was having at the club. Any injury suspensions ahead of the game? Harry Darling didn't play against Watford. He normally starts centre-back, but he got injured on the weekend. So I think he's still touch and go. I'm not sure if he'll be back or not for this one. So he's one that might miss out. Other than that, I don't believe there's anyone notable missing from the game. Miles Peart-Harris, did get injured as well in a recent game, but he was on loan from Brentford and has since been, not recalled, but the injury is taken out for the rest of the season. So he won't be playing again. He's gone back to Brentford and said his goodbyes. So they're the only ones really, not really anything else of note that we are missing. Swansea going to hurt Burnley, which players are capable of doing so. It's tricky at the moment because we've only been a few games into the new style. It's hard to know where the real attacking impetus is coming. Zanfer Potnik has had his longest spell of starting games for us since we signed him in the summer. He's a striker. He played in the Euros, actually, against England. He's kind of like old-fashioned, likes to make his presence known, holds the ball up, plays others in. For some reason, that wasn't, or we weren't getting him into the game or using those strengths under Luke Williams much, and he was in and out of the team all season. Since Sheehan's come in, he started the last 4, and I think it's a bigger part of our game to try and utilise those strengths. So he might not be the one that always scores the goals. Even though he has got a good shot on him, he can be quite accurate from distance, and he can create an opportunity out of nothing, and he's quite accurate as well. He's got a good long shot on him to just turn a defender and get a shot on target. But he might also allow some of the others to come into the game. Liam Cullen is the one perhaps you should watch out for in terms of how prolific our team is. Not the most prolific, but he's our top goal scorer with 9 goals. He's also got a couple of assists. He plays behind the striker now. It's a position he's found himself in this season. Historically a striker, but has dropped back, and he does tend to play quite well off the striker. I wouldn't call him an out-and-out number 10. He's probably more of a shadow striker, and it's worked well for us at times this season, specifically on the back of him playing for Wales and having good international performances. He brings that back to club. We haven't had an international break in a while, and he hasn't scored for a while, so the one coming up would be welcomed, I think, for a lot of Swans fans. Hopefully he can get a goal for Wales again, because he seems to come back buzzing and do the job in the league for us then. Are there any Burnley players you're particularly worried about? Well, you've got one ex-Swan that definitely is worth talking about, Connor Roberts. Someone that we would have loved to have brought back, I think. But I saw you recently signed a new contract with yourselves, so it'd be interesting to see what sort of game he has when we play each other at the weekend. And like, I know there's other players that can do damage, but I think he'd definitely be the one that all the Swans fans are watching. And quite often, as is probably the case with a lot of clubs, but we like to think we suffer from it a lot more than others. We tend to concede quite a lot of goals when we come up against former players. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Connor Roberts can score a goal, because he's obviously someone that played for us and came from our academy, not just someone that moved on from the club, but he's a local boy who's come up through the ranks here. So nice to see him doing well, but yeah, hopefully he doesn't do too well in this game. Who do you think will get promoted out of the Championship? I think Leeds and Sheffield United, for me, are nailed on for the top two. I'd be surprised if Burnley don't go up through the playoffs, just because I'm so impressed with the defensive record. I think last I checked was 11 goals conceded for the season. That's unheard of. I'm pretty sure on course for breaking the record for like defense, so like the amount of goals conceded in a season. I just like 11 goals in, what is it, 30 odd, high 30 games now, isn't it, in the league that we're on? Is that absolutely ridiculous? Fair play, 37 games. I know when we went up to your place earlier in the season, we had a goal cleared off the line, and I was gutted about, and then Matt Grimes gave away a penalty that personally think was a little bit on another day might not have been given, but there we go. Yeah, I'm just super impressed by the tally of 11 goals conceded at this stage in the season, and I think that sort of defence deserves to be rewarded. And I'm not trying to discount you guys from the top two race. I know Leeds have got a game in hand, and you're only 2 points off Sheffield United, so there is still a chance. I don't know. I just got a feeling it's going to be them two and then Burnley in the playoffs, because I just think that you'll shut out whoever you're up against. And Sunderland would have been my other one that maybe would have the chance, but whoever finishes 5th and 6th, I just think there is a gulf. There's definitely a gulf for the top 4 and the rest. So it is between 3 teams out of that 4. I think Sunderland are only going to finish in the playoffs, so they're not going to go up in automatics, but 3 of those teams, for me, will be the ones getting promoted. I can't see whoever finishes 5th or 6th getting the job done, but maybe I'll be wrong. Who knows? Okay, who do you think will get... So I've just answered that one. Predictions for this game. So going into this one, I just saluted your defensive record. I think it'll be quite a low-scoring game. I think on our podcast, I predicted 0-0 because I can't necessarily see us breaking you guys down, but we have also done quite well ourselves. Recently, we had 3 clean sheets on the bounce since Sheehan came in until the Watford game. By all accounts, we made it easy for them to score with their own mistake, but otherwise looked okay defensively. And I think our home performances have been a lot better since the change of manager. So I think Burnley will be the team more likely to win the game, but I could quite easily see this being a 0-0, low-scoring affair, and probably doesn't suit you guys who are chasing the top 2 automatic promotion, but I think we will be quite happy with that result out of this game. So I'm going to say 0-0. Maybe I'm being optimistic, but I hope that we can put in a good performance. Anyway, thanks for having me as always. I hope that was okay, and yeah, I shall catch you. Well, maybe I'll catch you next season. Otherwise, good luck in the Premier League.